On Monday's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele Roden and Big Flip Livingstone, you know it's time for a Waiver Wire Monday and a look into Monday's DFS and big time betting board. Let's ride.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody, to another week of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Flip and Steele. Thank you so much for being here and making us your first listen every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Network, and you know where to find us across all platforms. You find your favorite content. On today's show, alongside Steele, you know we will be breaking down tonight's 5-game betting and DFS board. It's time to get that money. And it's also time to keep your eyes on the waiver wire because there are not many Mondays left to make this happen for your fantasy squad. So Steele and I are here for you as well. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Steele, my friend, it is crunch time for fantasy hockey season. We've said it before, and I will say it again. These waiver wire Mondays are going to be crucial over these next couple of weeks, and I'm very excited to hear who you have your eyes on because you know I have all kinds of picks ready to go. Welcome back, my friend. Let's dive right into it. Who do you have your eyes on for this waiver wire Monday?
Well, I've talked about this guy over the last week a lot, and I really like this game. He's really helping his team out, and that's Charlie Coyle of the Boston Bruins. He's owned at 14% right now, 396 fantasy points on the season. Yeah, I've talked about him a lot because he deserves to be recognized right now, and he's done a wonderful job on the third line, producing offensively and helping them win games. He has 12 points in his last 12 games. The Boston really needed help offensively with their bottom six. They weren't getting a ton of offense, especially from the fourth line guys, but Craig Smith and Charlie Coyle have really stepped up. Both those guys have had 12 points in the last 12 games. Coyle has 38 points on the season, and the Bruins are on a 4-game win streak, and they've played fantastic since Brad Marchand's suspension and Patrice Bergeron's injury. You and I talked about it. That was a time period where the Boston Bruins really needed to kick it in gear and show that they can play without a couple of their star players, and they did so. And one of those guys being Charlie Coyle really stepping up, as well as with Jake DeBrusk and Craig Smith. But they're on a 4-game win streak. 8-1-1 in their last 10 games. They play the Maple Leafs on Tuesday, which is another, playoff matchup coming up very, very soon, potentially. So that's a huge game right there that we talked about from the Maple Leafs perspective as well. And then they play the Devils on Thursday and the Columbus Blue Jackets on Saturday. So relatively easy schedule. We know with the Maple Leafs, it could be a very high scoring game with the goaltending situation, even though Peter Mrazek looked really, really great on Sunday against the Florida Panthers. But again, they have a really easy schedule coming up. And I think Charlie Coyle being at 14% owned, he's really stepped up and helped the Boston Bruins win the last, 8 out of 10 games.
14% seems really low for him. And I think, you and I have said this before. Maybe it's because we're way too close to so much of this that you look at these numbers and it's like, how is he only owned at 14%? Same for a couple of my guys here. But I think Coyle, what I'm trying to do, Steele, with these guys is have a look at guys on teams that still have a lot to play for. I love that angle. I love the angle of the competition. Sure, you can still find value in guys on teams who are out of it already. But like my first player in Sean Dursey on the LA Kings, just like the Boston Bruins, they are in a dogfight for the playoffs. The LA Kings are sitting nice right now in the second spot in their division, but the teams behind them are closing in, and I love this kid. I talk about it a lot. I talk about players that I have on my formats. Sean Durzi is a kid owned in 5% or less, rookie, having a great under-the-radar season for the LA Kings. He was part of that deal that Jake Muzzin was sent to Toronto. He goes to LA, second-round pick of the Leafs, and let me just say this. Over his past 7 games, Durzi has 6 assists, 1 goal for 7 points, and he's getting a ton of power play one time, which cannot be ignored when it comes to certain fantasy formats. Steele, he had a 3-point night a couple of nights ago against Chicago. That's the first ever 3-point night for a rookie D-man in Kings history. He's getting a lot of opportunity with Drew Doughty's injury. And I think a guy like Dursey, if you need a little flyer on your defensive side of things, he's a guy you want to take a look at, especially in dynasty formats, because he's young and his ceiling is high.
Yeah, a lot of people in the leagues I'm in have picked him up and have held on to him as well. So he's playing he's having an absolute fantastic season as well. I also have a fellow LA Kings player that I want to talk about. Before I get to him, I just want to quickly mention Tim Stutzla at 35% owned, 473 fantasy points, 14 goals, 39 points, 17 power play points. He's also got 12 points in his last 12 games. And the Ottawa Senators schedule coming up. They play the Nashville Predators on Tuesday, and then a back-to-back against the Detroit Red Wings on the weekend. So, again, another high-scoring game to look forward to with Tim Stutzla. But the guy I really want to talk about is Viktor Arvidsson of the LA Kings as well. 39% owned, 433 fantasy points. He is coming back from injury. He missed 8 games with a lower body injury. He was on the IR, so he has been activated. What the LA Kings have been able to do the last couple of years with the acquisitions and additions in the offseason, they are what the Chicago Blackhawks wanted to be. But the LA Kings have just been, they did exactly what Chicago wanted to do, but they actually were successful at it. They were able to go out, get guys like Philip Deneau, Alex Edler, Trevor Morph, taking advantage of this prestigious opportunity on the second line and really showcasing his skill set. So I think Rob Blake and the LA Kings organization has done a fantastic job with the additions to a couple of the players throughout their entire lineup. Quinton Byfield playing on the third line. He can, kind of be mentored by Philip Deneau and Anze Kopitar. So I really love what they've got going down the middle of the ice. But Viktor Arvidsson as well, being one of those guys they've added over the last couple of years, he's been absolutely fantastic. 38 points on the season. Like I mentioned, he has missed a couple of games. He's only played 4 of the last 12 games for the Kings, but he's gotten 3 points in those 4 games. They do have a tough schedule coming ahead, but they also play 4 games this week. And with a really tough matchup in the middle of the week against the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames in a back-to-back. So a very tough schedule with a 3-game road trip, as well as they play the Winnipeg Jets on Saturday. But 4 games. They start off Monday night against the Seattle Kraken, so look forward to him as well for DFS selections.
Hey, man, the LA Kings, you said it. Rob Blake deserves a bunch of credit. I think you and I have been there before when talking about the LA Kings talent pool. We know it's deep. We know they have a lot of great prospects, and I think this is a team that you don't want to sleep on for a number of reasons. Again, these are guys, we're taking a look at guys who are out there that you can add to augment your roster down the stretch, so make sure you do not sleep. Hit us up on Twitter. Stay in the DMs. We're always here to help. If you need some advice, Steele and I got your back. Hit us up. Make sure you are smashing that subscribe button and the follow button. Stay tuned around the break because we are going to be getting in to big-time bets. And, of course, Steele's got your back. He's your DFS guru. We got some selections. But first, I want to just tell you all about Built Bars one more time for the people in the back. Covered in 100% real chocolate. They are low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with these. They are better. A typical candy bar can run you anywhere from 200 to 300 calories, and we don't got time for that. Go to Built.com, scroll down to the macros chart. You'll be blown away. High protein, low cal, high fiber, low carb. What else do you need to know? What about the flavors? Mint brownie, coconut almond. You've heard it from me before. They are all delicious, and they are coming out with new flavors all the time, so do not sleep. At Built, they are all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first and figure out how to make it healthy after. I don't know how. They do it every time. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and get 15% off.
Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NHL game with analysis from our local experts. You don't want to miss out on the highlights. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast from, just like this podcast right here. So please make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, and get the latest episodes of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast as soon as they're available. Plus, Flip and I appreciate all the love and support out there, so thank you so much for that. Let's dive into Monday's DFS selections here. 5 games on the schedule, And would you look at that? Like I mentioned before, the LA Kings are playing the Seattle Kraken to start off their week for a four-game week schedule here. I'm going with I'm looking at that second line, but after looking at DraftKings and a couple of the, punching in the numbers, and there's a lot of opportunity and advantageous guys for cheap as well. Some of their star players that, aren't as expensive as I thought. Yep. I'm just going to really quickly list out the numbers and the names. Dano, 5,300 points or $5,300 for Monday night's game, 9 points in his last 12 games. Trevor Morph, he's going to be 4,400. He's got 41 points on the season and 4 shorthanded goals just in this season alone. Kopitar at 6,000, Kempe at 5,400, and Arvidsson at 7,200. Now, I'm not quite sure why Arvidsson is quite that high at 7,200. So because of that, I might be staying away from him and go towards Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe, because if I can get Kopitar and Kempe at 6,000, 5,400, that's an absolute steal in my book, especially going up against the Seattle Kraken. Yep. Kempe, he's got 28 goals on the season. Kopitar, 57 points. Those two are absolutely lighting it up. So for me, I'm going with Kempe. I'm going with Kopitar. And I'm throwing Trevor Morph in there because I think he's doing an absolute fantastic job on that second line.
It's interesting that Arvidsson is that expensive. And I think, you're spot on with you have to keep an eye on him waiver wire wise. And I did want to quickly mention before I get into DFS from my side of things is 2 other guys from a waiver wire standpoint, super quick. Frank Vetrano on the New York Rangers. Keep an eye on him. And Alexander Barabanov on the San Jose Sharks. Yeah. Both guys hot right now. Both guys getting top line opportunity and making the most of it. So, we're past the waiver wire, but make sure you keep your eyes on those 2 guys, Barabanov and Vetrano. But I think you're right, Steele. The LA Kings are a team that are well coached. That is a good front office. You can see it top to bottom. And John Quick and Cal Peterson, and I've talked about this a lot, I think are 2 goalies flying under the radar. And I love this spot for them against the Kraken. And aside from a garbage time goal 2 nights ago, the Kings smacked them around 4-1. So, it finished 4-2, but literally, I think the Kraken squeaked a goal in 3 seconds left. Yeah. So we know that's not really a 4-2 game. That was a dominant performance from the Kings. And I think you can't go wrong with the guys you mentioned. Also, shout out Anze Kopitar, who just keeps doing it year after year after year. I think you said 57 points for him this season. Yeah. 56. Like, that's another great year, and no one's talking about him. So jump on that value tonight for sure, Steele. Very good pick, in my opinion, on the DFS side of things tonight.
Yeah, really getting down to the nitty-gritty here. I think, I'm a little surprised Arvidsson's at $7,200. So at first I was gonna go with that entire second line, but because he's so, he's so up there in price, I had to look to that first line, and actually there were cheaper options. So Kopitar, Kempe, and Trevor Morph for me for the LA Kings matchup versus the Seattle Kraken on Monday night. The second matchup I'm actually looking at is the Chicago Blackhawks versus the Buffalo Sabres. And because I was able to save a little bit of money from my LA King guys, I'm going all out with my Blackhawk picks here. Ooh. DeBrincat, 7,000, Kane, 7,400, and Seth Jones, 6,000. DeBrincat has 17 points in his last 12 games. Patrick Kane, 25 points in his last 12 games because he had that 6-point night, which was absolutely incredible. Wow. Yeah. And then as well, Seth Jones, he has 10 points in his last 12 games. So their top 3 guys are absolutely producing right now. So they might not be winning games. They might be one of the, bottom tier teams in the league right now, but their team, their guys, their players are scoring goals at will, and especially their top guys. So DeBrincat 7,000, Kane 7,400, and Seth Jones at 6,000. I put it all into my 9-player roster. I'm able to fit all of those guys in there. So as well as either Jonathan Quick or Cal Peterson as one of my goalies. So again, I'm going with the Chicago Blackhawks and the LA Kings for my DFS selections. I do have a couple of cheap options, but what do you think about those matchups? Are you looking anywhere else?
I'm looking right at that Chicago game as well, my friend. And, if I haven't blown my budget, DeBrincat is starting to really turn the page for me. This kid is special. Yeah. I'm seeing the things that he's doing, and Chicago better get another couple of players in there to augment the top of that roster, because I really don't think they're that far off. Maybe the back end is more of an issue, but if they can, keep Kane going the way he's going, even Jonathan Toews is starting to play a lot better. And I was going to say, you highlighted the guys who you're going to pay a premium price for, but I also think there's a ton of value in their second line, especially in a guy like Taylor Radish, who is playing great right now as well, alongside Jonathan Toews. So if you've blown your budget on the top guys, I think this is a good spot for Chicago. Oh, wait, they're 10-0 in their last 10 games against Buffalo. They play great against the Sabres. So my two teams were Kings and Blackhawks, and you hit them both already. So I would say, if you're not following suit with exactly what Steele's saying, you're slipping. And I would also say you're slipping if you're not realizing the value on the second line on the Blackhawks. Like you said, maybe not winning games, but does that matter in DFS? The answer is no. So look at these guys, and like I said, do not sleep.
Yeah, and Kane himself is great against the Buffalo Sabres too. 25 or 26 points in 17 games himself. So, of
course,
yeah, those top guys are absolutely producing. I do have a couple of other cheaper options just in case you go out there and spend a little bit extra dough and you're looking for some, just cheaper options, but can bring some value to your DFS selections. Anthony Mantha of the Washington Capitals. He's been great since he's come back from injury, 14 points in 21 games, I believe, for himself. He's at 4,000. So relatively cheaper than other guys, but again, 4,000, a little bit up there. Dimitri Orlov on the back end, he's $3,800. He can step up and join offensively and do a little bit more that can help the Washington Capitals up front. And then Alex Edler, again, one of those guys that the LA Kings were able to get over the last couple of years. He's at $2,700, another cheap option. And then on top of this, Jake Mccabe as well. He's at $3,500. He stepped up again, a couple of assists in the last week. He's really helped out offensively, but it's the block shots, it's the hits, it's the shots on net. It's all those little things that Jake Mccabe is doing right now to help his game progress in the right direction as well. So those are my cheaper options for Monday night's game.
Little 5-game board, but I like how things are shaping up here, Steele. I think I'm going to sprinkle. I might do just a verbatim Steele Roden move and just take all of your DFS targets because I'm feeling this tonight. So I hope and I've said it how many times, whenever it looks too good to be true, it usually is. But I'm feeling these situations like, come on now. Kraken, not good. Kings at home, let's get it. Blackhawks at home, dominating the Sabres over recent memory and playing better. Maybe not getting wins, but they are definitely producing offensively. So, let's ride these trends out. I like me some trends. So stay tuned for that in a couple of seconds with Big Time Bets.
Big Time Bets coming up right around the corner. But thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, which also includes YouTube. So please make sure you hammer the subscribe, hammer the follow button, and get the latest episodes of the podcast as soon as they're available each and every day. And thank you so much for the love and support out there. Flip and I appreciate it so very much. So thank you for that. Let's jump over to the Big Time Bets segment where the money's made flip. It was a little bit of a rough week last week from Tuesday to Thursday. We did, get back in the win column on Friday going into the weekend, but it was a rough week. So we're looking to turn it around this upcoming week for Big Time Bets. Hopefully we can make you some money out there with our bet options. I'll kick it off with my first pick of the night, and that is the Carolina Hurricanes money line versus the Washington Capitals at -130.
I like it.
This was a little bit of a difficult situation just looking at the way the games have turned out this year. Washington has had Carolina's number the entire season. Washington has won all 3 games so far. Not in brutal fashion. They had one game where they won 4-0 and the other ones were 1-goal games. But again, they've won every single game they played up against the Hurricanes this year. And this, again, could be another first-round matchup in the playoffs.
Of course.
We've seen the Carolina Hurricanes win, in the first round against the Capitals back in 2018 or 2019, I believe it was. But again, the way that things are shaping up right now this season, the Capitals have the Hurricanes' number, and they have not played well against them. So I'm looking forward for the Hurricanes to get the one win they really need against Washington before we go into the postseason and they meet each other in that first round. So I think the Hurricanes really need to get a W against the Capitals so they can have that confidence going into the first round.
I like where your head's at today, pal. I don't know. Maybe we need to switch up this recording schedule some more, but you're poised with these breakdowns this morning, and I'm feeling it. I'm looking at this game as well, but to me, this is too hard to call. Like, I think this is a coin flip game. I wish you nothing but the best with the Hurricanes, and I like this angle you're on. I'm going to stay away from it in terms of picking a winner, but I will pick Alexander Ovechkin as an anytime goal scorer. He banged for me on Saturday. I had a big Saturday, 6 for 6, perfect Saturday. Ovi was one of those anytime goal scorer. Look, 4 out of his last 5 games, he's buried. We know he elevates his game for these big-time situations. This is a big-time situation. This is a playoff-type game, division rival, division positioning on the line. I think you'll see the best out of Alex Ovechkin against the team, and you know me with my stats, Steele, who he's done amazing against in his career in the regular season.
Yeah.
Other than the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning, Alex Ovechkin has scored more regular season goals against the Hurricanes than any other team. 46 goals and 52 assists in 84 career games. I expect another big game from number 8. Alex Ovechkin, anytime goal scorer at plus 115 for my first pick of the night, Steele.
Alex Ovechkin hit for me the last time I picked against the Hurricanes as well. So I like your pick. And that this Rocket Richard race is getting really close now. Matthews at 48, Draisaitl at 47, even Kreider at 44. Ovechkin's trying to catch up to those 3 guys, but it's getting really tight right now for the Rocket Richard. So let's hopefully continue to see some goals from all 3 of these guys, all 4 of them, including Ovechkin, and get a close race. But hopefully Matthews can lock it down and get another Rocket Richard trophy. My second pick of the night is coming from that Chicago Blackhawks game. Sabres versus Blackhawks over 6 goals at plus 100.
Thank you.
Has the Blackhawks have gone over the number in 10 of their last 12 games. And we know from the Buffalo Sabres side that they can get a ton of scoring out of Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch. Jeff Skinner's been great this year. Peyton Krebs is helping on the offensive side as well. Rasmus Dahlin can help up. And with both sides not really having the best goaltending, this could be a very high-scoring game. And this is the type of game where I think Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat, even Jonathan Toews, Seth Jones, those guys can really just take over and score a ton of goals. And that's why I chose them for DFS selections as well. But my second pick of the night is the Sabres versus Blackhawks over 6 goals at plus 100.
Well, let's keep this super simple because my second pick is also the over 6. So let's keep things simple right now. The total has gone over in 5 of Chicago's last 7 games against the Sabres. These 2 teams are involved in a ton of high-scoring games, seemingly every night, if not every other night. Not going to overthink this one at all. This should be a high-scoring game. And at 6, this number could easily be 6.5. I don't know why it's not. Maybe it will be by the time you get your bets in, so consider a tease. But I love this number at 6. I'm taking the over as well, Steele. That's not my lock of the night, but let's hear yours.
All right, so my lock of the night is going back to that Kings versus Kraken game. I'm taking the Kings on the puck line versus the Seattle Kraken at plus 105. The Kings have won both their matchups against Seattle. Both of those games, they've won by more than 2 goals as well, or 2 or more goals, The last time I picked the Kings on the puck line, they absolutely dominated the Nashville Predators 6-1, so they hit for me there as well. I've mentioned all of the guys that they've added over the couple of years. They're really starting to find, their game down the middle. I think Quentin Byfield has looked great the last week. I like the Kings on the puck line versus Seattle here. I just think they're scoring a ton of goals. They're getting great goaltending out of Cal Peterson and Jonathan Quick the last 2 weeks as well. So I'll take the Kings on the puck line for my lock of the night at plus 105 every single time.
I think you really can't go wrong right now. And again, I'm staying away from this one from a prediction of who's going to win it side. I would definitely lean Kings. I don't think the Kraken are a good road team. They're not a good team overall, and they're worse on the road. I'll say this, though. This game screams under to me. I'm going with the under in this game, under 6 as my lock of the night. They just played Saturday, and I mentioned it. The Kings were great against them, and aside for a garbage time goal with 3 seconds left, that game goes well under the number, and the Kings played great. I think after just playing this team and seeing how to beat them and the success they just had, to me, this is a screams under. I love it at 6. I probably would have taken it at 5.5 as well. So give me the under 6 for my lock of the night in this LA Kings game, and I'll throw one funny stat at you, Steele, which you might like. The total has gone under the number in 10 of the Kings' last 11 games on a Monday night. I know that's a random one. Monday nights are sometimes hard to get going on Mondays after you had a big weekend. I don't know. Maybe they're a little hungover from Sunday. I'm just saying, maybe it's just me. I like the under here as one of those spots that I'm just feeling. Not a ton of recent numbers to support other than what I had just said. Give me the under 6 in the Kings Kraken for my lock of the night, Steele.
I like that because the first matchup they had, the Kings won 3-1. So under the number again over the weekend, 4-2. But like you said, they scored in the last 3 seconds. So it either tied or it was under the number if it was at 6.5. I like the fact that we're taking the lock of the nights from the same games a lot recently. So my lock of the night are the Kings on the puck line versus Seattle Kraken at plus 105. Flip's lock of the night is this Kings versus Kraken game under 6 goals right now for his lock of the night. Pencil it in. Lock it in, put your money down. This is where Flip and I make you some money to take home, put some extra cash in the pocket, hopefully some extra cash for ourselves as well. And hopefully we can have a great week because last week, we'll leave it back there. We'll leave it in the past. We won't talk about it anymore.
Let's file that one under G for gone.
Yeah. We'll file it under G for gone. We won't talk about it. It's in the past, but let's start this week off really, really hot for Monday night's game. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. If you want more gambling advice on what you should pick, but for not just hockey, make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all podcast platforms, just like this podcast right here. So like I said before, please hammer the subscribe, hammer the follow button, and you'll get the latest episodes of Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast as soon as they're available each and every day. 7 o'clock in the morning, Monday to Friday. You don't want to miss out on these podcasts. Flip and I are giving you all the highlights. We're analyzing. We're trying to pick up on some hidden gems on the waiver wire. So make sure you're tuning in to every single episode throughout the week. Thank you for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.